you guys asked me like, well, why service? I mean, for me, it is for my family, for my I have 3 kids, kind of setting that example to them as well that my parents did for me, that there's so much more to this life when you do contribute back to your community, and it's not just about yourself. I want to continue to kind of be that example for my family.
Welcome to the On the Path podcast, a conversation on navigating life. Join Chris Coker and Colin Creech as they have honest conversations with fellow travelers on the path. In each episode, they explore the physical, mental, and spiritual health aspects of the whole self, striving for personal accountability and a strong community. Gain insights, learn from our mistakes, and hear from guests who have mastered these areas. Step on the path, embracing every challenge and success along the way. See you on the path.
All right, everybody, we are back again for another awesome episode. This week, we're actually sitting down with a gentleman named Michael Sullivan, goes by Sully. He is the Chief of Staff for Team Red, White, and Blue. For those of you that are familiar with the organization, I'm talking about Team RWB. So as the Chief of Staff, he helps kind of run the ship. It's a veteran nonprofit organization that's really committed to enriching the lives of veterans through community and through physical fitness. So as you can imagine, it is right up our alley here on the path.
And talk about just an impressive background too. 30 years in Army Special Forces. He was a colonel, yeah. So he had multiple combat deployments, but also multiple different leadership roles, and couldn't be more down to earth. I think after this episode, I really wanted to get outside because he was talking about he's about to go run an ultra marathon, but he's going to do it backwards the day before and then run it with everybody else. So one's not good enough, and just an impressive background, military career, comes from a family of service. His great-grandfather, his grandfather, his father all served. It was truly impressive to see his life of service, but also his activities outside of work.
Yeah, absolutely. And the legacy continues, right? He's a dedicated family man. He's married, has been for decades to a math teacher, and then he's got 3 kids, 2 of which have gone on to continue to serve in the military. One has Ranger qualified infantry officer. The other is also on active duty, but just so happens to play rugby for Team USA. So just an incredible individual. The way that his family has turned out is definitely just another testament to who Sully is. So we are very excited to dive into this episode. So without further ado, Colin, let's get into the conversation.
Let's do it.
Sully, thank you so much for being willing to join us. We're really excited to sit down and talk to you. You've got a ton of pedigree, huge background we're excited to go into, and the work you're doing now with Team RWB. For the followers and the listeners that we have, they know that we like to really open up with an icebreaker question that's usually off the wall. And I was looking you up last week just to try to prep for this. I said, all right, this guy's got maybe a future in life coaching. And so I want to ask you, if you could pick a life coach for yourself, the only rule is it has to be a fictional character. What fictional character would you choose as your life coach, and why?
Wow.
I warned you we could get them off the wall.
That is difficult. Like fictional
character. It can't be Tony Robbins. He's a real person. So
yeah, but if you want Mickey Mouse or Darth Vader, go right ahead.
Good to go.
Well, yeah, a lot of people that know me would say, "Oh, he's going straight for Darth Vader," because I'm a bit of a Star Wars nerd, and anyone that knows me that may see this would be like, "Oh, that was too much on the nose." The guy loves Vader. I had signs in my office in the military that had, WWVD. What would Vader do?
That's hilarious.
But I'm not going to go there because I feel like we're more peers than coach and mentee. So
oh dang.
So
unexpected turn.
But no, that's a good one. I guess maybe Batman. Yeah, Bruce Wayne. I mean,
that's true. Now you got options. You have a versatile coach.
With, multiple careers.
Very quotable. Like you either die the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Right? Like that's a life. That's a life thing to know.
It is.
That's right.
That's right. He's versatile.
Well,
I don't know.
Which
That was way too hard.
are we talking? Christopher Nolan Batman? Like which version though? That's
See, I
gonna
knew
really
you were
help
gonna
me.
ask. I was thinking Lego
gotta-
Batman.
Lego Batman. That's the one. That's a great
Nice.
answer. Lego Batman.
Right.
Yeah. He doesn't really take himself that serious, but he really does, He's got an amazing voice. Like if I could
But it's a
pull off-
Lego.
Yeah,
He's
that's
a
right.
Lego.
Well,
Thank you, by the
we could
way,
go on
for
that one all
entertaining our
day.
question.
yeah. Sully, it's great to have you on. I'm sure this is going to be one of our longer intros because your career is already extremely. It's so impressive what you've done, during your service, but also as you've transitioned. You were involved with Team RWB well before you actually left active duty, and then now you've transitioned, and you're a chief of staff there now. But what was the drivers behind it? Obviously, you've got a family, you've got life, you were in the military. Like, what made you get involved even before you got out, and what was that like?
It's a pretty easy answer. I mean, twofold, right? Because first and foremost, it was based on a relationship, like most things in life. Like, I think most things you succeed at, you kind of have a teammate or somebody that's kind of pulling you in one direction or another. So the guy that founded Team RWB and is our current executive director, Mike Erwin, he and I served together in 1st Battalion, 3rd Special Forces Group. He was a young intelligence officer. As the battalion intelligence officer, I was a company commander. We did a rotation to Afghanistan together that was a really good one for us, despite how the war turned out. But he and I got to know each other really well over that rotation, a lot of mutual respect. And post that rotations, when he went to graduate school, came up with this idea that, veterans need this community tied to physical fitness to help them. At that point was transitioning. It's the vision and missions now more on health and wellness for veterans. But Mike was smart. He took all his friends that were motivated, and whether they were active duty or already out, and called us all up and said, "Hey, I'm starting this thing and let's get it going." The second half of that of the why is because basically he's like, "Hey, you're going to need this too someday." So, and despite how busy I was, I saw friends that were getting out right after rotations, whether it was Iraq and Afghanistan, the challenges they were having in terms of moving back to communities that were away from maybe their military teams, and having that camaraderie, that common bond, and still focusing on their own self when it came to their physical fitness. I saw the goodness in that. And then actually not even realizing at the time, despite I was very busy, it was great for me and my family, right? To get out, to get become a part of a larger community within the Fayetteville area. I started the group here before they were chapters, and got it going strong for the first few years, and then handed it off as I got busier as like a battalion commander and other stuff, but remained a member for the last, 15 years since the very start. So yeah,
That's amazing.
It was kind of a no brainer.
Yeah.
I guess
That's
if
awesome.
Chris, if you give me, I'd love to better understand this too, because you've basically lived a life of service. Was there something, even before the military that made you choose that path, or an experience that you knew? Obviously, kind of maybe one thing leads to another, but you clearly have, now you're still a young man, but are living a life of service.
I would say it's directly tied to my parents and the way I was raised. I'm very fortunate, to be a guy that was raised in a very successful middle upper class family. My dad was the county prosecutor for Yakima County in Yakima, Washington for 26 years. And then he went on to be a U.S. attorney before he retired. So spent his entire legal career, basically as a public servant, and
Yeah.
I idolized my dad for that. And he had served in Vietnam. He did ROTC. And prior to that, I have 3 grandfathers, because his biological father was killed in World War II. But his adopted father served. My mom's dad, my grandfather served in the Navy in World War II. And then my mom's grandfather, my great grandfather, served in World War I. So there's stories of like service throughout our family. I got my dad. My mom worked at Catholic Family and Child Services, working like child care and other outreach programs in Yakima in the diocese. So that, I was just kind of surrounded with this environment that, fulfillment in life wasn't necessarily all tied to like monetary gain. and your success could be, when it's shared with others, is like even greater. So I think that's what my parents kind of instilled in me. The other part of it is like, I grew up playing team sports. I'm a big like advocate of this idea that there's not a single individual on this planet. You can call people goats all day long. Every goat had a teammate, whether it was even if they played like even if it's like Tiger Woods, he's a golfer. Like, he had a coach, he had a dad, he had friends, he had people that, teachers. There was a team that
you
got
have
that
Lego Batman. So we all have a coach. Yeah.
That's right. Sully's got Lego Batman.
Lego Jeeves. Right? Even though he lost his parents, he still had a team that made him Lego Batman. So it works everywhere, trust me. But, so, I mean, just the idea of going into the Army, it seemed like kind of the easy button for me, because it's like, this is like the biggest team sport out there. It's a little more serious than sports, but and then being able to carry that on with RWB. I mean, it's in the name, Team RWB.
Yeah.
It just, again, for me, it's just been like the perfect kind of life of mixing my profession and my personal desires.
Yeah. Sully, I want to stay in that vein of service. And you made the comment around like, don't necessarily always chase the almighty dollar, right? Like, find something with purpose and value. One of the things that I respect Team RWB for so much is the volunteer force that it has created. There are so many people who support the mission, who are part of the team, yet they're doing it as a volunteer force. So I kind of just want to unpack that a little bit. Like what's your take on that piece? You alluded to it before, very busy individual, but you were volunteering a ton of your time. What value did that give back to you to volunteer your own time? And then if you have any words to share on like how important is that volunteer network and that component to Team RWB?
Yeah, our volunteer leaders are the lifeblood of the organization. I mean, it's those folks. We have a very successful application now and other means to kind of bring people into the community. But it still takes people to put the content into the app or to greet the new people, to get out there and make like each event something that folks want to be a part of. So without the right, volunteer leaders to make it happen, it's going to fall flat. Again, it's a testament to what Mike Erwin kind of envisioned for this earlier on. He's a big thinker, big visionary kind of guy. And he didn't want to just create an organization, like a veteran service organization. He actually was kind of like, hey, I want to generate a movement. And movements are designed on people that are willing to give their time and buy into the mission and concept of what's going on. Very small staff. We have a few paid like part-time state coordinators in some of the bigger states with like larger veteran populations, and just the management of that. We knew we had to compensate those folks, but really the lifeblood is right down there at the very, ground level with the chapters and those eagle leaders, is what we call them. We call our members eagles. We wear the eagle. It's those folks that are making it great every day. They're the ones that understand, like, Sully came to the 5K and it seems a bit off. Maybe I should put my arm around them and see what's going on. They're the ones that are. Yesterday we had a big celebration of someone's birthday that's in the local chapter, and that's because the Eagle leader is tracking everyone's birthday. They're not getting paid to do that. They've bought into the idea of what that kind of community does for people's health and wellness.
Yeah, for sure. Completely. And it hits for everybody listening out there. I don't even have to be too on the nose here and talk about just like the undertone of community and how important it is. And then also that contagious effect that it has, right? Like, cause that's really like all the surround sound that gets generated around the organization is coming from people who are doing it because they feel that sense of purpose and that sense of community to be a part of that, which I think is really cool. Kind of the pivot point I want to take here is also it's very physical, right? And so I'm curious, like, what your take is. Like, there's this intersection within the organization, and it feels like probably within your own life too, between like physical fitness training and this component of community, doing those two things together. I worked out, I was a gym rat for forever. I've always done like basically still a gym rat, but I've also recently discovered like team fitness, and I haven't looked back since. Because like you said, Sully, I grew up playing
CrossFit.
Sports. Yes, I was. It's a good sport, Colin. He's a hater on the CrossFit side, but I love it.
I appreciate it. I just don't want to be in a cult. But keep going.
Well, the piece I love the most is the community piece, like that. There's this overlap of fitness, but also with a team.
Derail the conversation. Continue. Yeah.
It wouldn't be a good interview if Colin didn't derail these conversations, Sully. That's
Adding flavor. That's my goal.
What's your take on how important is it to have physical fitness compounded with community?
No, I think so to your point, you can do it alone, right? You can go to the gym by yourself. You can go for a 10-mile run, 10K, a 2-mile walk, all by yourself. And sometimes that's great. It's great for like mindfulness, for you to work out things, maybe kind of quiet the noise and just like check out. So not against, doing physical fitness activities on your own. However, I believe it does just get better when you're sharing that experience with somebody else. And it could be something very difficult. It could be like, functional fitness, CrossFit workout, and you all in just laying on the floor sweating and like, why did we just do that to ourselves? Or it could just be, I'm going to go for a 40-minute walk with a couple friends around the block, and just talk about our days. Again, it's just that the movement, the raising of the heart rate, all the other stuff that comes along with the, physiological effect of doing that is important. I, not a scientist, but I believe when you do it with somebody else, there's an added benefit because of that social connectedness. It's something that we even asked and we're looking at. We talked to Fitbit about it. Like Fitbit, everyone's tracking all the stuff they're doing, their sleep, their, every one of their, the question I had, we were talking to a couple people at Fitbit. I was like, hey, is there any way you guys can see, like, is your heart rate lower? Like, cause I think there's actually an effect, physical effect that when you go together, like next thing you know, go on the next run with like 4 other people, start talking about the day, your pace will be like at an 8:30 pace. You're normally running at a 10 and somehow you're able to carry on a conversation and you didn't even realize you just ran 3 miles. Right. So again, I think there's some of that benefit that you're not, you just kind of, the shared kind of lift of the event itself with somebody else makes it easier.
Embracing the suck together sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually think it helps to build resilience when you have somebody else to do it with you as well, right? Again, I'm a big fan. Like you can build resilience and learn to take a punch yourself, but if you have 3 other people behind you and you have to take a punch, you know that they're gonna be coming back at it with you. So it helps to build. I got someone in my corner, and I think it's just a great way to kind of approach not only your physical fitness but life.
Yeah, there's so much there. Well, I'm not a scientist either. I'm sure we talked about that before, but I even wonder. My mind goes to like even heart rate variance days later and other things. But I will leave it to the professionals, maybe at Fitbit. I'm a big fan. Chris knows I love the trackers, but on this podcast, we talk a lot about what we've coined the whole self philosophy, which is physical, mental, spiritual, personal accountability and a strong community. And before we started today, you also mentioned, with Team RWB that you guys also, know the importance of mental well-being. And that's something you're beginning a journey in as well. Can you share more about that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, it's not just one thing, right? You can look at different articles, different journals, whether it's 5 pillars of health and wellness or 7 pillars of health and wellness. Again, I think if you kind of break it more down into, there's not just the physiological and the psychological pieces of your life. Because there is, for folks that are spiritual, kind of what's their moral compass, and then that social connectedness that you need in terms of that community environment that we've already talked about. But we're really leaning into it in terms of understanding what can we do and what can't we do, like at Team RWB. So if you go to our website now, you'll see that we've kind of rebranded our programming to really lean into that understanding of knowing like your own physical fitness, where you're at in your health and wellness journey from that aspect. And then some of that, those different things you can do, whether it's your nutrition, your sleep, understanding substance abuse and what, alcohol or whatever else that you might be into is doing to your body, and those kinds of things. And we have programming for that we call Eagle Fit. That is, like these 30-day modules and challenges that's going to kind of force you not only to do these things like a hydration challenge, but it'll teach you why you need to hydrate every single day. Right. And then that builds upon like, okay, so do you have like a physical fitness goal? We ask people to do like a Misogi, like a big fitness goal each year, something you might fail at, but it creates that accountability,
Wow.
and we provide other events people to do in person, and that's kind of our ground operations, right?
Yeah.
So again, I think, to get back at it, as we look at all that, we start to realize that even though we're trying to create, the leading health and wellness community, we are not going to be able to do that alone because we're focusing more on the physical fitness and some of this other education based on like your physical well-being and health. So we're looking to partner. So we have a deliberate program that we call Eagle Alliance. That's just like the military, right? We don't go, no one service, maybe it's the Marines will say they go alone. They got an Air Force. And I got it. But once you take that first island, you're going to need everybody else. But so we go together as a joint force, right? Or when we fight a war, we pull in other folks to help us fight that war. We're never going to go alone. We're Americans, right? We know the power of like going together. So it's the same thing here. So, we're officially in a few things like through the Bush Institute, the Veterans Wellness Alliance, that allows us
Great.
A touch point to their check-in process. So if you have a friend that's having a mental, or maybe they have like a TBI issue, you can push them to that asset. It's free, and they can try to get, if they need it, clinical help to work through their problems. And we're building out partnerships with some other folks. Like there's a for-profit Sword Health that does like remote physical therapy. Again, we don't have physical therapists, but with motion tracking technology or these things that you can put on your body, you could do your daily routine. We did a study for like, using 75 of our members for 6 months, and then for free, they could kind of see what that could do for themselves. And we're continuing to look at how we could develop out these partnerships to either link people to the experts that do the things we don't do, and essentially help round out that holistic health kind of process that you need in your life that takes into account everything. So we're not ignoring at all like mental health challenges or mental injuries, and like, if you have a brain health injury from blast exposure for years, right? What we want to do is like use the power of the community, understand like, hey, Sully's slowing down, what's going on? Is he's having issues with that? Ask him the right questions. If he wants to self-refer, great, and then we can work through these other partnerships we have, that are direct with Team RWB to get them the help. And then when they get the help, they can come back to maintain the goodness of what they got back within the community, right?
Yeah.
So you're never alone, and it kind of keeps that whole process going.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And well, first of all, thanks for sharing all that detail, Sully, because I think I'm excited to see, I'm excited to hear it and to see where it goes. And it's very much like right in RWB's wheelhouse, right? Like in the spirit of community, like you have the opportunity to bring people together foundationally. And then when the need arises to bring in the right people to address the right problems, that's where the power of community kicks in big time. And I think, again, not a scientist either, but anecdotally for me, I think right now from a society view, we're reacting, right? Where it's in order to address some of the mental emotional piece, and in order to address some of what just is going on in the world, now we're saying, oh, okay, you know what? Maybe there's this physical component I need to be thinking about. And what you're saying is it's taking us to a more proactive place, right? And eventually we'll see this as a movement. Like I do believe this is the direction that we'll head societally, where everybody just kind of looks at it and says, you know what? Like I need to tune up, like what's going on? Like maybe I just need to go do a run and clear my head, or, maybe I need to sit down and meditate. Maybe I need to go talk to a friend. Like we're starting to think of it a little bit more high level. And I think movements like what you're talking about, the changes that are coming to Team RWB, how you're going to start thinking about partnering with some of the more technical experts in these spaces, it's just going to start unlocking that more and more at a kind of at a macro level.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's so much underlying tones there too, with just education and access. Sometimes we don't know. And then like our podcast with Dr. Free, we were talking about before we started, I mean, I knew all those things, but to hear an expert just kind of put it all together, you're like, oh, wow. Yeah. And so just education, but then like, how do I get help, or where do I go? It's some of the biggest hurdles. And I think it's awesome. That's also part of what you're talking about. And it's cool to see like the partnership side of Team RWB, because can you find a veteran and send them to medical school and this and that. Yeah, you can do all those things, but there's so many other great organizations. Like, how can we, combine our efforts? I think it's an awesome way to approach it too.
Yeah.
No, we're absolutely doing things like that. I just had a conversation with a couple other veteran support organizations that do scholarships, and there's a couple of the big ones that are like, hey, a lot of our folks go off to get their doctorate in, whatever, nutrition or like, but when they get done, besides just starting their professional career, they'd like to give back. I'm like, we're the hub for that spoke. We need to link those people in, like make them an Eagle leader, get them out, get them working out too, because they need it as well. But, having that access to a person like that could then provide, ideally for us, content that fills out that Eagle fitness side of our human performance training that we're building, those modules.
Yeah.
I got it. 30 years of doing physical fitness in the Army. You give her, maybe I could give good advice on, something. Probably not. It's probably going to be bad. I'm going to probably tell you.
We've clarified.
Hurts, you should just keep rucking harder.
Yeah. Rub some dirt on it, please.
I think you're supposed to change your socks, actually, gentlemen. Like, let's get this right. So.
Exactly. So, but if we can pull in the experts to be a part of the team, it builds out that community even more. And it really kind of helps to professionalize the product that we're providing our members,
Yeah, for sure.
I think there's, something as we've been talking has really come out to me, life of service, but Team RWB and in your career in the military, it's such a big purpose, and there's so much behind that. But something we talk about a lot on our podcast is obviously the whole self philosophy, and we feel like those are the these that keep you on the path. But the path is that you're going down is living intentionally, living into your purpose. I'd love to hear for you. Is your purpose service, or how do you kind of view that for yourself, and how important is it, do you think, in that journey, especially for veterans transitioning out of the military?
Definitely for me, like service is probably my purpose. If I had to put one word on it, that would probably be it. The idea of being able to help out folks to my left or right, this idea that I could be a part of something that is actually moving the needle on veteran health and wellness. And the good thing about Team RWB is it's open to everybody. So, we got active duty. Like you mentioned, I started when I was an active duty officer, reserves, guard. 20% of our population is civilians, of our members, mostly probably family and friends. The person's birthday that we celebrated, sorry, my dogs are barking.
I thought that was Chris's.
Person's birthday we celebrated yesterday in Fayetteville at the RWB she's a 70-year-old civilian that just wanted to hang out with veterans. And she runs faster than I do. She's phenomenal. But so again, this idea that being part of something that's helping those folks out, it's really why I get excited about, like, oh, we could do this, we could do this. So that's what kind of drives me forward. And I think the second piece is kind of, you guys asked me like, well, why service? For me, it is for my family, for my I have 3 kids, kind of setting that example to them as well that my parents did for me, that there's so much more to this life when you do contribute back to your community, and it's not just about yourself. I want to continue to kind of be that example for my family.
And clearly you are. So like your kids are following in your footsteps. Yeah, you have children that are choosing to serve as well, which is incredible.
Yeah, are they doing anything big right now? Any
Not
of
really.
them do anything recently?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
They're all kind of disappointments.
Gave you the plug.
Disappointments.
It's not what you said before we went live, just to
actually,
clarify if your kids are listening.
So some people, if they've Googled me, the first thing that pops up is probably my daughter. But I have 3 children, and my wife is in kind of the service industry herself. She's a math teacher at a local high school. So
that's service.
So it's very tough service. But so we have our oldest son. He's a certified personal trainer and like nutrition prep chef. He lives locally here in Fayetteville and does that. Awesome. So that's his thing. And then we have twins. I always say boy and girl, but they're a man and a woman now. Jackson and Samantha, who surprisingly kind of followed me into the family business. I joke about my grandfathers, my great grandfather, my dad was World War II vet. Now we have these 2. They both went to West Point. They were 2020 grads, both recently promoted to captain. Jackson is an infantry officer. He's doing his what they call the captain's career course right now, and he's loving that. And then my daughter is an engineer officer but she's in the World Class Athlete Program, which is a thing for the Army that if you're an Olympic athlete, you get to do that full time, and the Army pays you because it's good for recruiting and everything. This is the way, so.
But also for their career too.
She's on the women's sevens rugby team, and you may have paid attention to this last Olympics. They won a bronze medal, beating Australia.
Thanks, Skippy. They did.
Yeah, in the last second play, we were there. It was one of the most insane moments of my life. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. I try not to lead with that, or this whole podcast would have been like, Sammy Sullivan. Well, you're Sammy Sullivan's dad.
Yeah.
We love her.
So who hits harder, Sully, you or your daughter? Like you were saying before, like if anybody knocks you down, you're gonna have to have a few people behind you to help. Like I'm feeling like she should tag along with any fight.
Oh yeah, I'm not messing with her.
That's awesome. And now that I know, I didn't realize they were twins, but now there's like a Rangers and rugby kind of like party that has to, like if they don't have that party now, like they need to, you can let them know that I offered the idea to them.
Yeah, I'll let them know.
Rangers and rugby. It's going to be a thing.
That sounds like an incredible party.
Sounds like we're going to need some more education long-term about injuries. So
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, first of all, congratulations. My kids I've got 4 children myself. They're very young, and I can see like the dad pride, and it gets me too, man. I just love when I see my kid yesterday had his first junior varsity touchdown. He's a running back, and he's feeling kind of discouraged because they had a rough game, and he got his first touchdown. And I'm like recording it. It was yes, mate. So I think it's incredible that you're able to watch your children thrive now. And again, it's a testament to the man and the person that you are and the person that your wife is to be able to set that example for your kids and what they've done. So I think that's outstanding. And I imagine, I hate to put you on the spot here, but they must, especially the 2 service members there, they've got to be involved in Team RWB, right? At this point, it's a part of the family business too.
Yeah, they are. I mean, we got photos of them running 10Ks when they were in 8th grade, and
that's awesome.
Older son in college, so they longtime members themselves. Yeah, I told my son, I was like, I'm going to show up down there at Fort Moore now, formerly Fort Benning, grab all you future company commanders and explain to you why this is important, because someday you'll be out. So when you get back out to your posts, get involved in the local chapters and
that's a great
get
idea.
Your soldiers involved. Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Jackson's actually going to run the JFK 50 miler with me this year, which is part of my big fitness goal. So
50 miler.
Yeah.
Have either of you done ultra marathons yet?
Yeah, we both have. He's done one. He did like a last man standing. He was stationed in Alaska, and that's where you like run 5 miles in a certain amount of time, and then you got to toe the line before the next lap. He got to 55. I think he and his company commander got 4th overall or 3rd. And then I've done them for the last decade plus. Primarily started with Team RWB. My first one was like 12, 13 years ago, the JFK 50. And this year it's my big fitness goal. So I knew I did it 2 years ago. I know I can do a 50 miler. So
does your body know that?
What's that?
Does your body know that?
I'm not telling my body that I'm doing this. It's going to be a surprise.
That's smart.
It's going to be a surprise. But no, so I decided to ramp it up. So the day before, I'm going to start at the finish and run to the start 50 miles and then turn around at the start and go back.
I thought you were going to say, like, I'm going to wake up and do a WOD and then do it. No, I'm just going to do the race twice.
Maybe stretch a little before. Honestly, no insult to your career, but you would have been outstanding in my branch of the military. Just sharing. So,
I was going to ask you if there was like an angle of like the RWB fitness events that you prefer, but I'm going to hedge my bets that running is kind of in your bag at this point.
Running's probably my preferred. I'll do all the other stuff. I mean, growing up, Army Special Operations, I just did the 9/11 stair climb, with a 40-pound ruck on my back 2 weeks ago.
Outstanding.
We do a monthly mission, and it varies between a run, a ruck, or a kind of the workout of the day, a functional fitness event. So participate in all of them. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome. Sully, this has been a phenomenal conversation. It's great getting to know you. This has been a really enjoyable conversation for me. I'm sure, Colin, you too. I want to give you a chance. Well, I know we talked a little bit about it ahead of time. You kind of sprinkled some things in throughout the conversation too, but just to really give you an opportunity to plug anything that Team RWB, what's going on, big projects you want to talk about, or just kind of reiterate. And where do people need to go if they want to learn more? Especially because you had commented it's not just for veterans, right? Team RWB is way bigger than that. So if people want to learn more, where should we send them?
Well, first and foremost, if you want to go to the website, it's Team RWB, which stands for Red, White, and Blue. We always make the assumption people know that, and they're like, what does RWB stand for? So teamrwb.org. You can also, that's the same handle on Instagram. That's our primary mode of promoting ourselves in the social media realm. So you can kind of get a feel of who we are. You can look on the website. It now frames out our 5 big programs, which starts with our application. So I want to talk a little bit about that real quick. So it's something they've had for years that they developed primarily for an events-based way of moving away from Facebook, and everybody could kind of see what was going on in their local community. So it geolocates you. You know, if I fly to Las Vegas tomorrow and I'm like, what's going on here? It would give me all the Las Vegas events if I want to go run with the local chapter there, right? And it highlights all the bigger missions, and we're starting to populate it with like everybody's events, whether it's, you know, the Boston Marathon to the Wear Blue Run to Remember event to whoever else is in the, so you can kind of see everybody's with a link if it's something you have to sign up for. So the events-based things still exist, but it kind of grew beyond that. Now we have like groups. So based on if you're a functional fitness guy, Chris, and you love CrossFit, you could pick, that's my thing, and that's what I want to follow. If you're a runner, a rucker, you're into, you know, I think we say mindfulness instead of yoga. I don't know what the new word is. There's a new word for yoga. I always forget it. But I mean, there's different groups, a nutrition group. So those exist. And the way our application works is there is a landing page. It feels very much like social media, but you only follow the people you want to follow. There's no algorithm. There's community rules. We don't talk about politics or anything else in the app. So it's a really positive place to just kind of land every day for about 5 minutes, check in on your friends, see what's going on. Oh, there's a 5K tomorrow downtown. I think I'll check that I'm interested or going to that, you know, and then, you know, so it gives you kind of that platform. And I always describe it as like the digital garrison. It's that place we all lived when we were in the military, kind of just the day-to-day activities to see what was going on for the day, what's on the training calendar. You know, it's all right there in the app. And then some of the other programs I already talked about. I talked about what we call our ground ops, which are those bigger in-person events that we do. Yeah. We do like a resiliency expedition thing. Right now, 4 times a year, we're expanding those. And that takes about, 20 to 30 veterans backwoods camping and kind of takes them through a resiliency training. So we do some of those, and we're expanding that program. And then you move over to what was kind of like the virtual kind of the side of the house, but that's where we're building out that human performance training, those modules. And it's not just like boring online training that we all hated in the military. It does like,
you know your audience well. Yeah.
Yes, you do.
So it mirrors like a challenge, right? So I was describing it as like the online training. They're like, Sully, don't talk about it that way. Nobody's going to do it.
I knew you knew better. I knew you knew better. Yeah.
So, so whether it's the hydration challenge, sleep understanding, we're going to do like a dry January and kind of understand like what substances do to you, especially like your sleep and things. And we're building out that content. Our 4th piece is that partnership thing I talked about, the Eagle Alliance. And then the 5th thing is the newest one, which is kind of exciting, is we're actually going to start giving scholarships for certifications. So that we've partnered with this group called University of Health and Performance. They only deal with kind of veterans and veterans that want to be certified personal trainers. They're going to build out a nutrition kind of curriculum as well. It's in Arkansas. So we pay a certain number of scholarships for each one of the classes there for veterans so they can afford it. And then we're going to start doing CrossFit level 1 and 2, some running certifications. And the big thing for us is not only giving that individual member an opportunity to kind of chase a dream, but now you have, volunteer leaders with a certification that they can bring back to their local chapter and kind of ramp things up a level in terms of that understanding of like, individualizing folks' journey within the community. Yeah. So that's kind of the exciting things that we're doing with within the app and within kind of Eagle Nation, kind of to move things forward. So it's really going to get built out next year. You'll start to see, like, you know, we're going to work towards ingesting wearable data, so you don't have to upload your mileage times when there's a running challenge. You can just you know, share your Strava data or whatever it is. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting, and the best thing is it's free, right? So if you go to teamrwb.org, join today. You know, you go through, and you'll take a little kind of like life survey that, you know, we use to kind of baseline everybody, and then if you're a veteran, you'll get a free red T-shirt, and you're off and on the journey to being a local Eagle. Get your community going. Yeah,
that's right. Wear the Eagle. So for everybody listening, if that is of interest to you, go to teamrwb.org and learn more. You can, of course, also go to our website. You can go to otpathpodcast.com. We'll have all the links here to get onto all their social channels, so you can find them that way. I encourage you to check them out. Definitely check them out. Sully, you're rad, man. This is a really enjoyable conversation. Thanks for popping on.
I really enjoyed this one too. Excited for the debrief and to follow your fitness challenge, which really blew up in our face once we realized it's not just 1 but 2 50 milers. So wishing you the best.
I think
of
it'll
luck.
go all right.
It'll be fine. It's fine. Nothing. We've all suffered, right? It'll be okay. Don't tell your body though until it's happening.
Yeah.
But thank you again. I really appreciate it, and looking forward to more conversations in the future. But with that, Chris, I'll see you on the path.
We'll see you on the path.